Hey guys, Dusty here. Today I'm reviewing the new Cloudstratus 2.0 from On Running. In this video, I'll go over the specs on the shoe, who I think it's best for, how it felt for me out on the roads, and finally how it's going to fit into my running shoe rotation. And just as a disclaimer, On Running did send me this pair of shoes for free in return for a review. However, I'm not getting paid to make this review. All opinions are my own, and they don't get to see this video before you do. So with all that out of the way, let's get into my review, which I should mention, this isn't quite my full review. I only have a handful of runs in this shoe. I think volume totaling about 42K or 26 miles. So I'm going to need a few more long runs in the shoe before I can give my full review, but I've ran in it enough to give this initial review. Okay, so the latest generation of the Cloudstratus is a max cushioned neutral road running shoe. My men's size 8.5 weighs in at 10.2 ounces or 290 grams. So definitely not a light shoe, but that's kind of comparable with the other max cushion shoes out there on the market. Max cushion shoes typically aren't trying to be the most ultra lightweight, fast, speedy shoes. The Cloudstratus has an 8mm heel to toe drop, and I couldn't find the stack height out on the internet. However, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably about 30mm in the rear with 22 in the forefoot. The Cloudstratus does fit true to size, no issues with my men's size 8.5. Really nice lockdown fit in the heel, no issues there. And then basically from the midfoot, especially in the forefoot, this shoe fits really wide. So for myself, I have a pretty average width foot. However, the lockdown was still good enough that I didn't feel like it was sloppy and my foot was sliding around too much. But I could tell there's definitely tons of width in the forefoot. It almost felt like I was wearing one of my Ultra shoes when I had the Cloudstratus on. And I've owned most of the shoes On Running has put out, and I would have to say that the Cloudstratus version 2 is probably the widest shoe that they've came out with. The upper on the shoe breathes really well. It's made out of 75% recycled material. One thing that's a little bit unique about this shoe and the previous version is they have this star lacing pattern down in the forefoot. And I know others have complained about this, saying it takes them a little bit longer to get the right lockdown and tighten their laces. For myself, I think I'm indifferent when it comes to the star lacing pattern on the shoe. I was pretty much able to lace up right away and go for my runs without any issues. But I think for those of you that tend to have some issues with pressure points in the forefoot where the laces attach, this could solve that issue for you. It's also just going to help the foot sit further back in the shoe and have a nicer lockdown. So a neat feature. Yes, it might take you a little bit longer to tie up your shoes. I personally don't notice a difference, but it's there for those of you that have that issue. The tongue on the shoe is fully gusseted, and like every other On Running shoe, they have a built-in sock liner. So all shoes, and this one is no exception, are very, very comfortable on your foot. And because there's a built-in sock liner and very little to no seams, you can always run sockless in your On Running shoes. And for those of you wondering, yes, the insoles are removable. On the rear of the shoe, we have this black plastic piece that wraps around the medial and lateral sides. And that's just going to give the heel a little bit of structure and add a little bit of stability and support that way. Now this is a neutral support shoe. There is no posting or stability to prevent excessive pronation, but I will say out on my runs, this shoe did feel very supportive. I think part of that is it just has such a wide base. It has a speedboard in it, which we'll get to in a second, as well as this black plastic piece at the back. I felt like it was just keeping my foot really stable throughout my gait cycle. Now the midsole in the first version of the Cloudstratus was the first shoe from On Running to feature a double layer of these cloud pods. However, in the first version, this double layer stopped before the forefoot, but now in the second version, they've extended that double layer all the way into the forefoot. And because of that, you're going to get more of a cushioned or plush feel in the forefoot of this shoe compared to the first version. And actually, I'll just go ahead and say it now, this shoe is much nicer than the first version of the Cloudstratus. And I would probably say that the Helion midsole in this shoe is probably one of the softer feeling On Running shoes that On has. Now when compared to other brands, this is still a very firm feeling shoe, even though it's max cushioned. So just as an example, my other two main long run shoes are the Asics Nova Blast and the Nike Invincible. And those are ultra soft, squishy feeling shoes. And while the Cloudstratus is pretty soft for an On Running shoe, it's still very firm compared to those other two shoes I just talked about. So tons of cushion in the Cloudstratus, but it's still a bit on the firm side when you compare it to other max cushion shoes in the running industry. And overall, when compared to the first version, I'm really happy that they extended that double layer of the Cloud Pods all the way to the forefoot. It makes this shoe a lot more enjoyable to run in than that first version. And then sandwiched under the insole but above the midsole is what On calls their speed board. And it's basically a polypropylene plate that runs the length of the shoe. And essentially it's going to load up every foot strike and help propel you forward, as well as making your gait cycle a bit smoother and more stable. Alright, finally we move along to the outsole. You just have rubber where you need it in all the high impact areas. The rubber that they're using on the outsole appears to be really durable, and I would assume it's going to be pretty sticky out on wet pavement. It's really dry here right now, so I haven't got a chance to use it on wet roads, but I don't think I'm going to have any issues with that. And I believe I had some issues with the first version being a little bit slippery. So again, another nice upgrade compared to the first one. And just like almost all the other On running shoes, there's usually a big channel carved out in the middle. It is filled in on the forefoot in this shoe. And yes, you're probably going to get a rock stuck in between these Cloud Pods or in this middle channel sometime during one of your runs with the shoe. That's just the reality of having an On running shoe. The newer models are getting better at keeping the rocks out. But yeah, for their road running shoes, you're going to mostly want to stick to road. If you run on a gravel trail, you're definitely going to get some rocks picked up in here. So far through 42K or 26 miles, I've only picked up 2 rocks. It's not that bad. Actually, at the end of my run today, when I got home, I checked the bottom and yeah, I realized I had a stone caught right in the middle. So at first they just kind of felt okay. I thought they were really firm feeling and I wasn't sure if I liked all that space, all that width in the forefoot. But about 5K into my first run, the midsole started softening up a little bit, and slowly but surely every run I do in this shoe just gets more and more enjoyable. And I will say that there is a certain pace that feels best in this shoe. I still think it feels okay at easy paces, recovery runs, but usually for those types of runs, I like a really soft, plush feeling shoe. Now this has a lot of cushion, but it's firm cushion, and I think where this shoe really shines is kind of more that steady to tempo effort. So you can still do short, easy recovery runs in this shoe, but I think where the Cloudstratus is really going to shine is in those long runs where you have some speed work to do. So just take myself for example. This is definitely going to be in my top 3 option for long run shoes, and I'm going to pair it with my Nike Invincible and my Asics Nova Blast. And those other 2 shoes are definitely max cushion, but they're a very soft, plush feeling shoe. And I love running with the Nike and the Asics for long runs, but more kind of steady to easy pace. And with the Cloudstratus, I like running more steady and faster. So for my long runs, where my effort's going to be a little bit higher, I'm definitely going to choose the Cloudstratus. And I think a lot of that has to do with, one, this is a max cushion shoe, so it can handle all the way up to a marathon distance really easily. And second of all, for a max cushion shoe, it's pretty firm feeling, pretty responsive feeling. And even though in my size the shoe still weighs over 10 ounces, I didn't feel the weight out there. It felt really nice running at those faster, kind of steady to tempo efforts. And I'm really happy about where the Cloudstratus is sliding into my long run shoe rotation. Those other 2 shoes are great for long and easy. They're just missing a bit of pep for kind of more of those high quality workouts. And now the Cloudstratus can fill that gap for me. So who is the Cloudstratus best for? Well, first of all, if you're like me and you need a shoe that can handle some higher quality long run sessions, this can be a great option for you. Also, if you're a heavier runner and you've wanted to try an On running shoe, this could be a really nice option for you because it has a lot of cushion for you. And also, if you have a wide foot, in particular in the forefoot, definitely check this one out. It does only come in the 1 width, so a D width for men or a B width for ladies. But like I mentioned, there is a lot of room, and when I first put it on, I said it felt kind of like my Ultra Torrens or my Ultra Escalantes, at least as far as the forefoot width goes. Finally, price, the Cloudstratus retails for 220 Canadian or 170 US. And that's certainly up there, but it is comparable with other max cushion shoes out there on the market. If I had to compare this to other shoes, you could kind of compare it to like an Asics Nimbus, a Brooks Glycerin, maybe a Saucony Triumph. But yeah, overall, I don't really have any issues with my Cloudstratus. I think for some, they might find the ride a bit too firm for their liking. But like I mentioned, the firm, responsive cushion of the shoe is going to be a big benefit when you have some long runs with some harder efforts in there. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. Check back in a few weeks for my full review. And like always, link down below in the description where you can pick up a pair for yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.